carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Heaven, the CEO of Survival Dispatch. Bear with me for a minute here. We are working feverishly to get this stream set up. John Wheaton will be here shortly. We want to catch the president's address in 5 minutes. I've still got to hunt down the URL for that. As you can imagine, we've been doing our best scrambling here, trying to get updates out to y'all. For those of you who aren't familiar with my office and my setup, you might get a kick out of this. So this is what mission control looks like here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screens here, 5 over there, and then 2 more over here. So those 2 have got some live streams going on them right now. And one update I want to put out there is that the legacy news, if they've said it once, they've said it 100 times in the past 30 minutes, that, well, we asked President Trump 2 days ago what was going on and how come he's changed his mind. They really still believe that President Trump would tell them 2 days ago when and where we were fixing to do this. Clearly, Donald Trump knew it well in advance, but boy, you got to be a special kind of stupid, John, in the media to think that President Trump would have said, well, we're going to do this Saturday night at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern time.
Can you hear me okay?
I got you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and let's also not forget, there's been one thing that he has been steady on. I actually found videos from like 2016 where he said Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. He's been saying it. He said it last year. This is not a new phenomenon. And all these people that are just going off half-cocked, trying to act like, oh my gosh, we're at war. We're not at war. Remember, he dropped a bomb on the leading general of Iran like 5-6 years ago. And did that turn into a war? Everybody was screaming World War III on the left back then. Let's just wait and see.
Yeah. So some of the updates that I've gathered since you and I spoke here a little bit ago is that there's a lot of bluster coming out of Iran, which is kind of usual.
Mm-hmm.
They're threatening to activate sleeper cells here stateside. They're threatening to attack our bases elsewhere in the Middle East. And they're also saying that the targets that we hit had 0 enriched uranium and that they had already moved it to undisclosed locations. I don't know if I entirely believe that. Give me a second here, John. I'm in such a rush. I got my hat all crooked. And
I was in the same boat. I just jumped out of the shower. I was in this freaking Southern Illinois heat all day, training in handguns and tactical pistol and everything. And so I'm a little weary tonight.
I'm with you there. I was thinking the same thing. Cindy cooked up this ginormous tomahawk ribeye, and I didn't get to eat it. I've been in here busy with this stuff. So I've got... by
the way, real quick, shout out. I got my Carnivalt meat in today, and I can't wait to try it. Check these guys out for sure. This looks rock solid. Got 2 boxes of it. I can't wait. I'll let you guys know how it is.
So just so you know, that's the first of 2 packages. There's another package coming.
Awesome.
Has some additional stuff, but yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. So I've got Donald Trump's X account lined up, and it says we will begin shortly. So I'm going to get ready to pivot to that. And if there's any problems, it looks like they have it queued up on @POTUS. And then as a backup, I also have it queued up on Truth Social. So if there's any issues, we should be able to pivot fairly quickly. Bear with me here for a second, John. I've got to add both of us to the stage. Bear with us as the audience as well.
Yep.
We had like zero time to set this up. All right. Well, fortunately, that's good news. Hey, it never goes that smoothly. Imagine that. All right. Well, let's get this queued up then right now. All right. So here's the live feed on X. And again, we'll keep an eye on it right here while we're trying to find additional information. So I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that I found while you were getting ready for this. Iranian State TV has issued a threat towards us. And the broadcaster said, Mr. Trump, you started it. We will end it. I've got that pulled up on our page. I have no idea who FAYTUKS network is, FAYTUKS network, but a Meteosat 9, so meteorology satellite 9, detected a flash over the Fordo and Richmond plant. The event registered at 3.9 micrometers and was visible. Let me grab it off of our Substack and shoot it over here, and we'll go back and forth between these two. So I'm going to put a link in the live chat. Should go out to at least 8 of the 9 platforms that we're broadcasting to, and there won't be updates made to that while we're live, but bookmark that. When we wrap up this live broadcast, that page already has all the updates that we found so far, and we'll keep them coming on there. So this was the guy from Iranian State TV who issued the threat, John. And again, I don't know who FAYTUKS network is. Open source Intel Defender reposted it. And I'm not even sure what 3.90 micrometers is as far as microphysics scans. This stuff's above my pay grade. Suffice it to say, it was right at 10:30 Universal Time. So not too long ago. It looks like Sean Hannity, by the way, had the first phone call with President Trump from the legacy media. And as far as I can tell, he was the very first person to announce that we actually dropped 6 of the bunker busters.
So these are GBU 57s. Now, I've done a little bit of research and seen some stuff on these. These are they're called they're bunker busters, but they're a massive ordnance penetrator bomb. They're designed to have a delayed fuse. We've had delayed fuses since World War II, in all honesty. But these were actually a version of the GBU 57.
Here we go.
Okay. We'll come back to that.
Precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I'm surprised at that, John. That was pretty short. I thought we might get a little bit more detail. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I was thinking about this earlier. The reality is all the people that are blustering and bloviating about all of this stuff, they don't know intelligence. They don't know what was going on, and I don't know. I may be speculating. My gut is telling me that Donald Trump, as he did with Qasem Soleimani, as he mentioned in this speech, he made the right call. Now, what's going to happen going forward? That's the big, hard thing. And last time when he did this on Soleimani, Iran rattled sabers, launched missiles into the desert within like 60 miles of a military base, intentionally missing because they didn't want to get involved in a war. And, you know, I am completely and totally okay with me being completely wrong about this. I hope I'm not, but I'm going to say that until proven otherwise, I'm going to trust the president that has done more for us in the last decade than any politician in my lifetime. And that's just my gut. But yes, I am kind of surprised that it was what, a 5-10 minute speech, something like that. So very short, very to the point. And he's sent another warning to Iran, and now Iran knows that honestly, Iran has some decisions to make because they know now that, hey, don't mess with this guy. So we'll see.
So I know you were busy trying to get ready to come on here. So one of the things that I caught over there on the legacy media was some belly aching from Democrats already, saying that they were not informed of this. One of the committees where there's 8 people, 4 from each party that sit on it, typically would get an advance notification of this, and they didn't. And I think that was the right call this time, because for the first time in a long time, there were no leaks, not a single leak. So hats off to Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump for pulling that off.
Yep.
Now, beyond that, I know you've got a great episode planned for tomorrow on, this looks like a manufactured rift in MAGA, meaning it's not real, or some of the people are bad actors. I got to tell you, John, I've about had it up to here with Steve Bannon. This guy is so full of it that it's absolutely ridiculous. So now he's on live right now saying that, there's a lot of explaining to do, so on and so forth. He thinks he's in a position that he's not in. He seems to think that he's smarter than President Trump many times. He likes to smile at his face and stab him in the back. I'm sick and tired. Yeah. And you know what? I've been a fan of Alex Jones for a long time. The past few days have really turned me off. Alex Jones, the Hodge twins, Steve Bannon,
Candace Owens.
My God, telling people if you don't agree with the government, just walk away from the military and take a dishonorable discharge. What on earth?
I know a guy that got a dishonorable discharge, rightfully so. He cannot get a loan. He is basically dirt poor. He has to work for cash under the table. It's a horrible. And if you get a dishonorable discharge, if you in a time of war, say their worst fears come and we get into a war. In a time of war, if you desert, you get shot. So there is that. Not saying I agree with any of that stuff, and not saying that I think we should go to war. I don't think we should go to war. This is not, in modern terms, this is not war. We dropped a bomb on their general like 6 years ago. If this was an act of war, that was an act of war. We didn't go to war, guys. Just saying.
Yeah. I think the definition of wars changed dramatically over the years.
For sure.
And at this point in time, I'm sure that we're going to see a proclamation, if it hasn't already happened, from Iran saying that they're declaring war against us. And they're going to make all kinds of threats. And they have a bad habit of blustering in that regard. But I have a suspicion that there's probably going to be quite a few people at a high level who want to take out the Ayatollahs, take out the regime. And, Drew Berquist said to me yesterday, John, when I was with him, that we are really, really good at regime change, but we suck horribly afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
We do a terrible job. So, my opinion on this, and so has anybody who's been following us for any point in time. I want less than nothing to do with wars in the Middle East.
Correct. Yep.
And so I'm not surprised that this got escalated tonight, but I'm also not naive enough to think that this will be the end of it. So there's already been threats made on X and other platforms that they're going to activate sleeper cells here in America. We know Hezbollah has a ton of them here. We also know Hezbollah has been working with other groups as well, including, the cartels, the gangs, other terrorist organizations. And it's entirely possible that we'll see a response here in the homeland. And we've been warning people for years about this, that, you have to continue to live your life. We're not going to sit at home being scared. But when you're out in public for the time being, you should have an exceptionally high level of situational awareness if you're anywhere near crowds, high value targets, so football games, open air stadiums, shopping malls, large churches in particular, school campuses. And we've been preaching this for years and years and years. When you are in public, I know it's hard for a lot of people because they're addicted to these things like their crack cocaine. Put down the weapon of mass distraction. When you're in public. It's the best piece of advice I can give you, because when you're buried in this, you're an easy target, number one. And number two, even if you're not the direct target, you will have no awareness of what's going on around you whatsoever. So we're Americans. We're not going to cower in fear, that's for sure. And I have zero plans of changing my lifestyle. But I'm already at an elevated level in public. I watch people watch me at gas stations, and you can tell they think, oh, that guy's kind of kooky over there, but I don't really care. I don't know them. I'll never see them again. And I'd rather be aware than not. So have you got any other thoughts as far as situational awareness is concerned, John?
Yeah. So, and this is stuff we've covered ad nauseum on our channel, on Survival Dispatch, on multiple things. We covered some of this stuff today in our tactical pistol class that we did. Is that, we should be there. There are a few things when you're in public. As much as you can, make eye contact with people. That is sending a subconscious signal to them that I see you. So if they're looking to get involved in something nefarious, they're going to be like, that man, that guy, or that girl is aware of me. And sometimes that can be enough to deter them and make them move on. Also, when you're going into specific locations, know your exits always. If something pops off and you have your children with you, you need to know how to get out of a grocery store, a restaurant, a church in multiple different ways. Every place is required by fire marshal laws to have multiple exits. Know those exits. Know where you can go. Talk about it to your children who are old enough. Run scenarios, and don't be a hero if you're going to sacrifice your family. Like, don't try and be a hero if it costs you your family. Focus on your family, get your families out of harm's way. Then if it calls for you to be a hero after that, then go be a hero. Go be John Rambo. But your family should be your number one priority. Understand, we have been talking about this, from the man pads that were smuggled in across the southern border to everything else in this heightened level. We had 4 years of an open border, guys, and they know that at least several hundred known terrorists got through. And they said that there are a lot that may not be known because they may not have committed terrorist acts yet. Of those, we don't know who are true believers and who took a free ride to the United States and are now assimilated into our country, or probably not assimilated, but at least living here and have no intention of doing these acts. But it doesn't take much to pop one of these off. Be aware and be prepared.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, just on that vein. So Tony Blauer likes to discuss the seconds before the shit hits the fan, before sudden violence happens. And the faster you're aware of a bad situation, the faster you can react to it, the more distance you can put between yourself and whatever's happening, and distance equals safety. So a large scale example would be, we get hurricane warnings all the time here in Florida. And all of a sudden, let's say it's a Cat 5 bearing down on people, and they'd been given an evac order a couple days before that, and they don't do it until the last minute, and they get on I-75 or I-95, and it's a parking lot. Okay, that's a large scale example. Let me give you a smaller example and something that we have in place. One word: avalanche. So if we're in public, and like if you were with us when you're here visiting stuff, and we're sitting at a table eating, and I say avalanche or you say avalanche, we're all getting up and leaving. And I'm going to go a separate direction, everybody else, to draw the attention, and everybody else is going to get out. It's a plan that you should have in place with your family where there's no discussion. What do you mean? Why are we getting up? No, there's no time for that. Avalanche, GTFO now. So, and again, you're right. We've been discussing this stuff for several years and trying to warn people that we face these imminent threats. And it's not like we're Chicken Little saying the sky's falling. This is based on credible evidence. Lord only knows how many, sleeper cells we actually have, but it's in the thousands now at the lowest estimate. So use this as a good opportunity to talk to your family on this particular subject. And yeah, there you go. Great comment from Tammy, by the way. Churches absolutely need the same plan. And check out our friend Keith Graves, ChristianWarriorTraining.com. He's got a ton of resources. He's a former law enforcement officer. He's a personal friend of John's and mine. And he gives away a ton of free training for church security teams. But suffice it to say that the clock has been ticking for a while now for terrorist attacks here on the homeland. And this just accelerated the process, whether people want to get their heads wrapped around that or not. Again, I'm not telling anybody to change your life and be a chicken and sit at home and stop living life. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is, I saw somebody put something in the comments. I mean, we're broadcasting on 9 platforms, so sometimes when the comments come in, it's just a massive burst. But to always be in condition yellow. So for those people who are new to Survival Dispatch News, let me just throw this out. Colonel Jeff Cooper came up with what he called the combat mindset many, many years ago. And the combat mindset in his terminology was condition white. You're sitting at home. You don't have a care in the world. You're not concerned that there's anything bad fixing to happen. Condition yellow would be akin to walking out your front door and looking both ways across the street before you cross. You have a level of situational awareness. Condition orange would be you are paying keen attention to everything that is going on around you. Condition red, the shit's hitting the fan. And then somebody came along years afterwards and added what's called condition black. And condition black means completely freezing up. And it's the fight or flight or freeze syndrome. And that's not something that you can change overnight. But John can tell you that situational training is the best thing that you can do, especially if you can do it with professionals. But even
here you go. Here you go. I got my waft shirt on.
Right on. Yeah. So where our families train. So if you can't afford to go to WAFT, I mean, I can't afford to go to WAFT. The only way I get to go to WAFT is because I'm from Survival Dispatch.
Yep.
But point being that there are plenty of online resources. It's not as good as in person, but if you can afford to get any situational training. So let's be clear on this. And John is a professional firearms instructor. I'm not. I'm just a hobbyist. And the point I want to make here is that when you go to the range and you shoot your guns, most people take their EDC ammo out, their everyday carry ammo out. They put some full metal jacket in because it's cheap ball ammo. And the firearm behaves completely differently than it would otherwise. So if you're going to go to the range and use ball ammo, now it's only good for a couple things: sighting in your optics, and even then it's not great at any kind of distance, and familiarity with the controls of your weapon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to find a way to be able to afford to practice with your EDC ammo. Okay. Number one. Number two, as Mike Sterling loves to quote Sun Tzu, human beings never rise to the occasion. They fall to their level of training. And I'm going to pull up a video from Lumberton, North Carolina that happened recently, maybe in the past year, where a carjacker takes an F-350. A good Samaritan who's on this construction site is 5 feet away from the carjacker with the driver's door open. He takes 5 shots at 5 feet and misses all 5 shots. The carjacker backs up a good distance, puts his toe into it, runs over the Good Samaritan and kills him DRT. So anybody who thinks that when they're going to be in this type of stressful situation without having done any training whatsoever, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry to repeat myself for people who are avid followers of our podcast, but 70% of Floridians who are killed each year by gunshot who did not commit suicide are killed with their own gun. They pull the gun, they go into condition black, the bad guy takes the gun away from them and shoots them. Done. Just like that. So it's incredibly important that you do situational training with somebody who knows what they're doing, or at least mimic what you find online. It's also critical that you find a way to elevate your heart rate. So a lot of us, like John and I included, we will sprint, take a prone position, a volley of shots, get up, sprint, take bands with us, do an exercise, look down, heart rate's 130, 140 beats per minute, and do that over and over again, because when you're not doing all of that, it gets a whole lot easier to shoot. And if you can be proficient when your heart rate's at 140 beats per minute, you wouldn't be like that poor guy in Lumberton, North Carolina. So I can't state this enough. Situational training is incredibly important. And here's the thing, and John can attest to this as well. We did situational training just a couple weeks ago at WAFT. John had a young lad with him, super smart, really nice young man who's fixing to be an Army Ranger. And he got his ass handed to him in situational training at being, quote unquote, gas station ready. And I can tell you, I've witnessed people who've had zero training before, an hour after doing the situational training, going, holy crap, my heart rate is still 140 beats per minute an hour later. So the situational training, and that's not live fire, by the way, is extremely effective. And I mean, we're going to gather up as much information as we can on tonight's developments with us bombing Iran. But the biggest thing that we can do as far as the survival dispatch team is concerned is to continue giving you information to make you and your family safer. That's what our job is. That's what our mission is. We dispatch information to our fellow Americans and friends of America so that you can protect yourself in public, so you can protect your family in public, and so that you're not a victim. You're not killed like a lamb, so to speak. John, so somebody right now, Diana, breaking news, Iran is setting up launches to strike right now. If you found anything in the past minute or so, John.
I've been, as you've been talking, I haven't seen anything specifically from any of the news accounts or anything like that. So currently not seeing anything really buzzing necessarily.
Okay, so let me bring up the incident in Lumberton, North Carolina. So here it is on the New York Post. I'm going to put this into the live chat for everybody in case they want to bookmark it and go check it later on. Put it over here in Rumble as well. So this is the guy that I mentioned earlier. So this says warning, graphic content. This is not graphic compared to what really happened. I've seen the full video and it's graphic. This one, not so much, but here we go. Five shots. Let me back this up. Did you see how close he is? Now, this isn't the best angle, and reports are that he's not quite as close as it looks from this angle and that he was 5 feet away, but he's essentially at point blank range. And John, I don't know if you caught this before when you watched this, but I'm pretty sure right there when the guy is getting it, the perp is getting in the truck, that the Good Samaritan actually shot the side of the truck somewhere in the toolbox area. Well, let me back it up and play it all the way through so our audience can see it. Boom, right there. So what you don't see there is him bouncing off the front of that.
Basically launching him like 60 yards for that truck. It's pretty gruesome. The thing that it looks like, I just thought this, and it was mainly because I just watched a video from Garantham on Auto Glass where they're shooting windshields with various different calibers. What's really interesting, the difference between front auto glass and side auto glass is made to shatter.
Correct.
Front and rear auto glass is actually not made to completely shatter. It's made to stay together. It has a seal on each end of it that keeps it from completely shattering to go into your face. It didn't even look like the window shattered. Like, did he miss that badly where he didn't even shatter the window? That's insane to me.
It's either that or he didn't have the window down. But let me show you something, because I can attest to what you're saying, and I'll just pull it up here on screen. Give me 2 seconds here. We're juggling a few things tonight. All right, so check this out just to confirm what you're saying. So this was basically a brand new GT Edition M3 that I had. I had 6,000 miles on it. A lady blew 2 red lights at over 60 miles an hour. If I had been at a couple more feet in the intersection, I wouldn't be here right now. I broke C2, C3, C4, L4, tore the posterior labrum, left shoulder, tore my infraspinatus, punctured my spleen. But take a look at the left window, John. The glass shattered when I got hit, and it shredded the left side of my face.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the front. And
completely intact. In fact, that what will happen is if you're in a head-on collision, that whole windshield is designed to pop out and forward so it does not bust into your face. So,
I'll get off of this. I just wanted to confirm your point on the way glass breaks. But I can tell you this: the impact was so significant, John. It broke the V8 in that car and split it down the middle of the Rod Valley. In other words, it split a block in half. So I would not have survived if I got hit in the side. But I'll be honest with you, I've been in a bunch of wrecks, and that was the first time I've had all 6 airbags go off, and the first time I've had glass actually slice me like it did. I was surprised.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, moving on from there, let me go back to this tab that I had up earlier. Top Democrats in the Gang of 8, House and Senate leaders and ranking members, House Senate Intelligence Committee were not briefed before Trump bombed Iran. All but 4 Republicans were. All 8 are supposed to be notified. Should infuriate people on bipartisan basis. Janice, you know, I'm not going to cuss at her, but golly, no, we can't. You can't trust any of these bad actors in DC anymore. This would have been leaked, guaranteed. I would bet every single thing that I own that it would have been leaked, and the Iranians would have had a reaction to it, potentially setting up hypersonic missiles, you know, to aim at our bombers. Who knows? But either way.
Well, and I'm seeing like there is a bunch of videos of this thing going up. This does not look like a facility that had no nuclear material, that they had moved it out. This looks like a massive underground explosion that popped to the surface. Ironically, a lot of people are pointing out the fact that, I don't know how many of you guys saw Top Gun Maverick, that unnamed country with the underground uranium enrichment plant that they had to drop the specific bunker busting bombs into and all of that stuff. That was Iran in the movie. Like they just didn't name them. But yeah, and there are some people that I follow within that are connected in the intelligence world that they're saying that this bomb that they dropped, the GBU-57, I was saying right before Trump went on, it was specifically designed for exactly this kind of target. And you have to drop them in sequence. Now, the B-2, the most unrealistic thing about Top Gun Maverick is that they use F-18s. They would not. The Air Force would go in exactly as they did with B-2s. They would drop multiple. So what they do is they drop them in a sequence. They drop one, it goes down to a certain depth, blows up, makes it whole for the next one, and they just stack them on top of each other until they reach the bottom. Once they reach the bottom, they know when they've hit the big part, because it explodes like you're seeing on videos on X and stuff. This was not something, they don't just develop weapons like this for specific applications overnight. This was not something that was developed in the last 5 days. This is something that was developed specifically because they've known about Iran. They've known about this this one plant since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something new. This is not something new. This is not something that, that was just all of a sudden, hey, let's develop a new bomb. No, this was something that they knew at some point we were probably going to have to take out. And I know a lot of people. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, I want to make sure that the people in the audience understand that you're an Air Force vet, and you're an engineer, and that you're not just some podcaster spouting off about the stuff. Number one. Speaking of spouting off, I want to hear what this bloviating tub of lard Steve Bannon has to say. I really dislike this guy. But before we do that, check this out. This is a very interesting post by Chanel Rion from One America News. For those tracking Guam, it seems the B-2s sent there were not a distraction. They were a warning to China. We aren't taking our eye off the ball. So in other words, we sent B-2s to a couple different locations in the past week, and one of them being on China's doorstep. And
that was Guam.
And after seeing what happened in the skirmish between India and Pakistan, where all of the Chinese military equipment failed, and plus all of the countries in Africa who have purchased military equipment from China have either been refunded or given extra stuff because their technology just doesn't work very well. But before we go to Steve Bannon, let's have a quick watch of this. I haven't had a chance to watch. I was looking for something quick that I could pull up that shows what you were describing with the GBUs. So I think this video has it. If not, we'll pivot to another one.
One issue about a possible attack is the 30,000-pound bomb that is part of the U.S. arsenal.
So this is obviously prior to us dropping.
Mm-hmm.
It is known as the bunker buster. Although it has been tested, it's never been used in war. ABC's Martha Raddatz explains.
This bomb, the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP, can only be delivered by the B-2 stealth bomber. The 30,000-pound bomb can penetrate deep into rock and has been tested successfully numerous times, but has never been used before on the battlefield. The U.S. has used the smaller Moab, the 22,000-pound bomb, with success, blowing up caves in Afghanistan. But if the president decides the U.S. will hit the Fordo nuclear facility, it will be the first time it's used. So there are some concerns about how effective it would be in an actual strike, since much is not known about Fordo.
So I'm going to stop that there because we know it's effective. And I saw a simulation somewhere at some point in time, John, and I'm going to go on the hunt for it, but I'm going to play this clip from Steve Bannon. 1 minute, 17 seconds.
There are a lot of MAGA that's not happy about this. I'll just be blunt. We can tell this in the chats right now. I think John's trying to come in. John Solomon's trying to join us. There, the president's got to, make the address. I also think he's got to talk to MAGA. There are a lot of MAGA that's not happy about this. I'll just be blunt. We can tell this in the chats right now. There are a lot of the chats that are just saying, hey, I hear you, but you promised you wouldn't do this. I hear your thing, and maybe they didn't negotiate. So I do think, as I said, I believe he's getting MAGA on board, all of it, but he's got to explain exactly and go through this. And remember, I said today, the party is on, using that World War II phrase. Who's going to host it? And early in the evening, we were hoping and working with people and saying, hey, maybe Israel is going to step up here. I think a big question is going to be why Israel did not take the lead and do this, because right now this is back to the United States. And I understand maybe we could get Fordo, but I think that's got to be explained. Israel did not finish what they started. That's the bottom line. And I'm telling you, a lot of people I know that are Israel supporters are going to say, why are we doing the heavy lift here? And why are we engaging in combat operations in a war that's a war of choice?
You want to respond to that, John?
Yeah, so we flew one mission. That's I went over in my last stream on Tuesday night about the massive intelligence operation over 18 months that Israel went through. Whether or not you like Israel, it's actually impressive as hell. Like what they were able to do with the drone technology, smuggling in drones, essentially neutering all of Iran's SAM missiles and radar installations through hacking all of those networks over the 18 months. And then just minutes before the planes show up on radar, they basically just cut their balls off, essentially. I mean, it's impressive. It's one of the most impressive operations in modern military history, that they were able to just basically fly in there with 200 aircraft, take out all of these smaller sites. The reality is, and they said, and this was said from the get-go, the reason I just said this, guys, the reason the GBU-57 was created, this thing can go through 200 feet of concrete. That's how insane this bomb is. It was to be able to be dropped in a mountainous region to destroy key military targets. This was a key military target. Let's not forget, guys, all of the people that are really pissed off about this. Who was the one that put jet fuel on Iran's ability to enrich uranium? Who gave them pallets of cash to allow them to do this? It wasn't Donald Trump. Think before we start spouting off on X. Barack Hussein Obama gave this military ability to Iran. He allowed them to basically put their plans into hyperdrive. And that's why we ended up where we're at.
I was going to say Barry Sortero. So you're saying I didn't win. I don't win the prize.
Yeah. So, and let's not, everybody's like acting like this is the first military move that Trump has made. And all of a sudden, dude, he dropped a Moab on ISIS. He killed Qasem Soleimani. Very similar to Ronald Reagan, peace through strength, all of the things that he used. Yes, Ronald Reagan's not considered a wartime president. We invaded Grenada, guys. Like, right. To act like to act like in the modern age, and this is coming from somebody who was in GWAT. I wasn't in combat. I I worked on planes in the United States Air Force during the global war on terrorism. And the thing that frustrates me is that we think that we can just sit down and not do anything on the world stage. We have done multiple episodes on the dangers of Islam, the dangers of radical Islam. What do you think? Chris just did an episode, just a couple of weeks ago, about what if England turns completely into a Muslim country and they have nukes?
Oh, hold on. They don't need to turn into a Muslim country. All they have to do is the Muslims have to take control of the government. And
Right.
the 37 largest cities in Great Britain now have Muslim mayors. So depending on whose numbers you want to believe, Muslims who were not born in Great Britain account for somewhere between 4 and 8% of the population, but they already control the 37 largest cities. So they don't have to have the majority of the citizens in Great Britain or France. You know, France has our Trident missiles with 8 nuclear submarines that could be parked offshore anywhere in the world and deliver a thermonuclear warhead, which is an order of magnitude greater than fission bombs, which is what Pakistan has. Because people say, oh, well, Pakistan is 96% Muslim and they've got nukes. No, they don't. They have the original Hiroshima style bombs, and they don't have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They
don't have the delivery system for even those bombs.
They have MRBMs, so medium range ballistic missiles, and they have a 1,600-mile limitation, and they can't even do a fission style warhead that far because they're so heavy. A thermonuclear bomb is actually more powerful and smaller, but France has the full triad. France can deliver land, air, sea, thermonuclear anywhere in the entire world. So what happens when France and Great Britain completely succumb to the invasion that they've subjected themselves to in this genocide that they've been committing? You now have 2 Muslim nations that have thermonuclear warheads and a people who are sworn to destroy the great Satan, meaning us, America. Yep. And John, before you carry on, I want to point this out. This video has been circulating for the past hour or so on X, and people saying this is Fordo. It is not. This is Syria 6 months ago. This has nothing to do with what happened tonight in Iran. So I just want to make sure that people are clear on that. And I pulled up another video here. Again, I haven't had a chance to go through these clearly, but let me see if I can find this, because what John was describing, and he's an engineer, he's at a different level than I am, but basically the 2 bombs are dropped back to back. The 2 GBU 57s are dropped back to back. And the first one, it hones in on the target and does its thing. And then the second one follows in the exact same hole so that you get maximum damage and penetration at that point in time. So let's just see if we can find a simulation here in this video.
Sets it apart from the rest is this GBU-57, which is typically delivered by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Due to the bomb's large size and weight, the aircraft can carry only 2 of these weapons in its bomb bay compartments. While it lacks thrusters, the weapon is equipped with 4 active lattice fins and a precision guidance system that enables it to glide accurately to its target using military-grade GPS. Constructed from a specially designed high-performance steel alloy, using its weight when falling under gravity to penetrate or dig itself up to 200 feet of underground soil or concrete. We'll also look into the difference between the massive ordnance penetrator and the mother of all bombs with step-by-step process of how they work, all in the video ahead. To give you an idea of the varying levels of penetration capability among different bunker buster bombs, let's compare a few examples. First, we have the BLU-109, also pronounced blue. It is a 2,000-pound bomb developed in the 1970s. This weapon is capable of penetrating approximately 1.8 meters or about 5 feet of reinforced concrete. Next, we move on to the GBU-28, equipped with a laser-guided system at its front. This bomb can penetrate to a depth of nearly 6 meters, equivalent to roughly 20 feet, which is as tall as a 2-story building. However, neither of these compares to the massive capabilities of the GBU-57. also known as the massive ordnance penetrator. It can penetrate over 60 meters into the ground, around 200 feet. To put that in perspective, this depth is comparable to the height of a 20-story building, depending on the floor heights. These examples demonstrate the significant advancements and differences in penetration levels among these specialized weapons. Let's put an average human here against this weapon, which is 20.5 feet long, giving it a streamlined aerodynamic shape that is crucial for stability and precision. With a diameter of 31.5 inches and weighing an incredible 30,000 pounds, translating to approximately 14,000 kilograms, it utilizes its massive weight to generate the kinetic energy required for deep penetration. This heavy, compact design enables it to break through over 200 feet of reinforced concrete, making it one of the most effective bunker-busting munitions in the world. Let's take a look at the parts of this weapon. The most important part is the body casing, made of hardened ferrocobalt alloy to withstand impact. Interestingly, the body comprises more than 80% of the bomb's total weight. Inside this cover, you will find the following components. At the front is the nose fuse well, all of which are joined by a fuse conduit. Sandwiched within this rod is the explosive-filled 5,000-pound warhead, which translates to approximately 2,267 kilograms. This conduit then connects to a tail fuse, which, interestingly, is the main detonator and is crucial for delayed action. Moving to the back, nestled inside the tail, we discover the intricacies of its guidance system. Here, the inertial guidance kit collaborates seamlessly with a military-grade global positioning unit, ensuring precise navigation towards its intended target. Alongside these components, one can find the adapter ring, which facilitates the attachment of the telemetry antenna, crucial for transmitting data, as well as the encryption key battery, which safeguards sensitive information. Venturing deeper into its structure, we encounter the thermal batteries vital for powering the system and the composite fins strategically positioned to aid in directing the missile towards its objective. These fins, meticulously controlled by internal gears, maneuver with precision, responding to commands to adjust the trajectory accurately. Let's take a look at the smaller bunker buster and how it works. It has a laser sensor at the front and just behind.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, John, and let you weigh in on any additional stuff while I pull up a video of the rods of God, which are way beyond what this stuff is.
Yeah. So this has been, I believe this bomb was being developed. Let me see if I can pull this back up from the early 2000s, which actually kind of meets the criteria of when we found out about the bunker in the mountain. And we've had GBU missiles for years, since Vietnam. The GBU-28, I'm very, very familiar with. That's a very common ordnance used with bombers and many other fighter bomber type aircraft. They're free fall. What sets this one apart is that nose cone, the ferrocobalt alloy, is actually magnetic too. So it actually it gains speed through its magnetic field too as it's falling. I've said this many a times about, like in a Tiger tank. Let's use an example of a German Tiger tank in World War II. Where our tanks couldn't penetrate it because we would shoot these gigantic guns, 155 millimeter howitzers, 105 millimeter howitzers, and they would just it would laugh it off and just keep coming at us. What we discovered was the velocity is the key. Velocity is the key to penetrating any kind of armor, concrete, any of that kind of stuff. So we developed 37 millimeter, much smaller guns that actually had the velocity to penetrate armor that was very thick. So what this bomb essentially does is it gains speed by dropping very, very quickly using a combination of its weight and the magnetic force that is generated by the metal alloy, and it penetrates 200 feet, which is mind-blowing. Like that is, and then so you think about this, 200 feet, that bomb goes in, drops, explodes. Then you have a hole that's 200 feet deep. Well, now you can go 400 feet, theoretically, or close to it with the second bomb, because it's going to start penetrating from the point as long as you can get that second bomb in the same hole. And that's essentially that guidance system on the back of it is so sophisticated that it can do that, that's nuts. And one of the things that I would actually point out too, and I think we talked about this earlier, this does show China one thing that we can do. There's a bunch of things China has underground too. And really, you know, everybody on X that's going off about, you know, everything's the Jews. And I've got my own theories on that, my own thoughts on that. I'm not going to get into it, but everything is Israel's fault. Everything is the Jews' fault. I'm not a fan of Israel's government. I'll just say that. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm also not a dispensationalist when it comes to eschatology in the Bible. But I also know that the biggest threat to us, there are two biggest threats to us, and that's China and radical Islam. Neither one wants our way of life to go on. And we're not talking about China. We're not talking about all the other things that are going on in the world. We're talking about this. And not saying it's not important, but I think a lot of this crap going on online is just a giant distraction. And yeah.
Appreciate the comment from Diana. We've got a thread going on our Substack, survivaldispatchnews.com. And by the way, if you head over there and sign up for a free account, you get our weekly watch guide, which shows you everything that we publish. But above and beyond that, without getting too technical, I come from the high-tech industry. When you send out email broadcasts to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, they're typically staged. They go out in chunks, so it doesn't all happen at the same time. However, Substack has huge email infrastructure, and we lit up the SDN system tonight as soon as this happened. So the Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System, and I've never seen 30,000 emails go out so fast, John. Normally, when you send it, you refresh the page and it says, we will have some stats for you in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes later, you know, a portion of it's gone out. In 5 minutes, all 30,000 emails had been delivered. So normally the SDN system is for our paying members, but if it's something like this that threatens the safety of our entire country, we're going to put it out there for free. So survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for free. You get our watch guides. You will also get SDN's warnings when they're at this level, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. So check this out, though. And I can tell you straight up from people at very high levels inside the military have sworn on their firstborn that we have a weapon called the rods of God. These are essentially titanium rods that are housed in satellites orbiting the Earth. And by the way, the Chinese have actually engaged in satellite on satellite. I'm not sure what you want to call it other than an attack. And we've actually caught them wargaming against their own satellites, trying to attack them, because they know that if things escalate with us, that we are heavily dependent on our satellites. But the rods of God are titanium rods that make nuclear warheads, thermonuclear warheads, look like they're nothing. Like in comparison, they look like nothing. Have not watched this video. It's only a couple minutes long. Hopefully it gives us realistic information.
And to end World War II led to a number of weapons and munitions developments. Amongst them was research into the use of a kinetic energy projectile, or basically finding ways to project a really dense piece of metal at ridiculous speeds. This would lead to damage, but without the explosive effects, similar to the Navy's work with an electromagnetic railgun. However, earlier iterations didn't focus on generating the velocity. Rather, basic physics would come into play by dropping it from really high in the sky. So imagine a 2,000-pound tungsten rod dropped from 1,000 miles above the Earth. Unlike a bullet, it would actually gain speed as it dropped, eventually hitting its target with power equivalent to an intercontinental ballistic missile without the mess of a nuclear weapon. The US actually used a variation of this tactic in Vietnam. These lazy dog bombs were small pieces of non-explosive steel fitted with fins. They were dropped by the hundreds and reached speeds of up to 500 miles per hour and penetrating up to 9 inches of concrete. This led to the development of Project Thor, which called for a bundle of 20-foot long, 1-foot thick rods dropped from high enough that they could reach sound barrier breaking speeds, and again, avoid the fallout associated with nuclear weapons, which were the only thing capable of delivering equivalent damage. So haven't these rods from God been released? Two main reasons. First, the actual weight of the projectile by the time it hits the target is still being debated. Just as large pieces of space junk break up and burn as they fall, the same could happen to these metal projectiles. The other reason, cost. Dropping these hammers from the skies could be up to 10 times more expensive than equivalent weapons in the arsenal. However, with the commercialization of space taking new steps forward via SpaceX and others, that may not be an issue.
So we'll go ahead and stop that there.
Velocity kills. And that's exactly what you're seeing.
Yeah, speed kills. So I just want to say that, again, very high level military people have told us numerous times this is not theoretical. We have the rods of God in place, and their devastation is way beyond anything a thermonuclear warhead can do. And I want to address Betty's comment here. Betty, there's been nothing released publicly that's even close to being at an engineering level to allow anybody to replicate our stuff. It just flat out. It's so complex. The guidance systems alone are extremely complex. They have to be satellite guided. So our enemies aren't going to watch a YouTube video and go, oh, well, I think we'll make these GBU 57s. It's way, way, way beyond that level of copying. And one thing that we are really good at is placing embargoes on military technology. So I'll just give a quick example. The Chinese, obviously, they try to steal our stuff all the time. Their J-35 is a ripoff of our early generation F-35s, but their aircraft carriers, pardon my French, suck balls. The one that they can actually, that can leave port is an old Russian container ship that's been converted to a small aircraft carrier, but it's so small that the jets can only take either half a gallon of fuel or half a tank of fuel or half the munitions, but not both. Then they went and they built 2 more aircraft carriers, and they have massive cracks in the hulls. We've seen them from satellites. They've tried to cover it up, and neither one of them is war ready. And the problems they've had with them, they even have a ski jump on the end of one. So the planes come down. There is satellite imagery of J-35s coming down, hitting the ski jump and going bloop and falling straight in the water. They do not have the EMP launch system that we have, the electromagnetic pulse. And that's how our planes get basically launched off of aircraft carriers. And we've placed that under embargo. Nobody has it to copy like we've got. And kudos to our Department of Defense for doing that. But the same applies to GBU 57s, other advanced technology. So don't worry, Betty, about somebody putting this information out there. Their intelligence gatherers know more than anything you'll ever see on YouTube, and it's still not enough to re-engineer, reverse engineer, essentially. Go ahead.
I can give you an example of how far behind the rest of the world is from our technology. The F-22 was entered service officially in 2005. I was in the Air Force at the time. And it is still the #1 5th generation fighter to fly. We do not. So we'll give F-35s to our allies. Israel has F-35s. France has F-35s. A lot of our allies have F-35s. F-35 came into service in 2017, 2018, something like that. The F-22 is still the most dominant fighter in the air. It took over for the F-15, which historically is the most dominant fighter. It's never been shot down by enemy aircraft. The F-22 is better than the F-15, both with avionics and its ability to fly. It's still the #1 5th-gen fighter. Nobody has come close to it. 6 or 7 countries have come out with 5th-generation fighters since then, including us. They don't touch the F-22. We are working on 6th-generation fighter. I think it's the F-47 is the next one that they're bringing online. It will eclipse the F-22 within probably the next decade to decade and a half. And it is far and away above anything that the F-22 can do. So that is how far we are ahead. We are 20 years ahead, 25 years ahead of the next country when it comes to technology like that.
You should probably mention that the F-47 was named as such before Trump got back into office. Some conspiracy theorists out there saying Donald Trump's an egomaniac. he called the next plane the F-47 because he's 45 and 47. That's just not the case. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they don't come close to us, and this is where all of the people that are talking about, what's Iran going to do? What's Iran going to do in retaliation? Well, it's going to be regional at best. They would not even dream. And let's also keep in mind here, Iran reached out to our enemies. They reached out to China. They reached out to Russia. They asked them for assistance. They asked Putin to negotiate. Putin actually called Trump on Iran's behalf like a day or two after this thing kicked off. And Trump told him simply no. And Putin went back to Iran and said, I'm not helping you. He said, no, you better deal with it. So Russia and China also realized that if we really unleash our military power, there's nothing that they could really do. Iran is nothing close to that. Let's just be honest. Now, do we want a terrorist organization? And that's essentially what they are. They're a government-ran terrorist organization. Do we want them to have any kind of sophisticated weapons? I don't want them to have hypersonic missiles, and they have those. Like, imagine them being able to put small warheads on there that are nuclear. Do we want that? And do we want to wait until the 11th hour and chance not being able to take them out? That's the other thing that I want to point out here. And once again, I am not calling for war. I'm not calling for any of that kind of crap. We're not putting boots on the ground. If we did, I would vehemently oppose it. I would vehemently stand up and say no. But we're not there. So let's take a chill pill. Let's stay vigilant and be more worried about what could happen on a small scale comparatively here, with terrorist organizations having boots on the ground in our country thanks to the previous administration.
I can't confirm this, but when Cindy and I were on our way home, 6 p.m. Eastern time, somebody put on X that Israeli ground troops were in Iran heading towards Fordor, which is the main nuclear installation. I haven't been able to find anything else to that effect, but it could potentially have happened. We haven't been able to confirm it. I like Marina's take on this. Precision strike, no leaks, no U.S. casualties. Hegseth gets an A+. Absolutely.
And I'll address this. No, we're not in World War III. I just basically laid that out. Could we possibly be? I don't know. I'm not a predictor of the future. I'm not, banging my chest and all this stuff, but I am saying, there is an element of foreign policy where you have to show a certain level of strength. You have to show that you're willing. It's the twitchy eye. Honestly, like, this shows more strength than George W. Bush ever did, in all honesty. It shows more strength than and all of Trump's. I actually said in his first term, his best thing in his first term was foreign policy. I thought he was freaking amazing in foreign policy. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of his track record. The Soleimani strike, it was, they launched a bunch of missiles into the desert and then they went home and took their baseball and went home. Okay, let's see what happens.
While you're talking there, John, I'm just trying to go through and see if I can catch any new updates at all. The only thing I've got that's kind of new is I'm looking at the only picture I've been able to find on the Situation Room, and I do not see Tulsi Gabbard in there. So that rift that's been reported between her and Trump, hard to say. I mean, there's been nothing official said, but I would have expected to see her, in there as the head of all intel agencies, you would think. Other than that, though, John, I don't know if you found anything breaking or new. I mean, I'm scanning as fast as I possibly can, and I'm not seeing
anything. This is it's really just a bunch of people just riffing on both sides of this, and I don't really have a whole lot of time for either side of that, because you have the people banging their chests, and I mean, yeah, some of the memes are pretty funny, but and then you have also the people that are just almost intolerable at this point to listen to, because they're single issue focused. By the way, on another note, did you guys see that the raise in wages is the highest? There's been 2 times that it's raised in the last like 50 years. Both were under Donald Trump. The first quarter, remember how they were talking recession? Let's just freaking talk about this for a minute. It's off subject, but it kind of goes to the way that these clowns online want to act. Oh, we're going into a recession. Oh, we're going into a depression. All this stuff. Wage growth was bigger in the United States in the first quarter this year than it has been at any other time, including Trump's first presidency. Okay, let's take a chill pill. The dude's doing a lot of things right now, okay? And he's trying to juggle a lot of things. Let's go off of his track record and say we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because that's where I'm at. And the instant that he goes out of and to where I think, okay, this is out of line, fine. But I don't think taking out a radical Islamic regime's ability to make war more effectively is that. Gosh.
So just a couple quick things, John. Number one, another updated post from, looks like half an hour ago, from Donald Trump. Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you. I cannot confirm this video. This is not the one that I showed not too long ago that was from 6 months ago in Syria. I can't confirm this is a different video. I can't confirm that this is actual Fordor being hit by us tonight, but I've found it posted by several people who say it is. So I'm not going to state unequivocally that this is tonight's video, but it might be. The other one, which looks similar, definitely is not from tonight. It's from Syria 6 months ago. Take it for whatever it's worth. But again, I'm hunting as fast as I can, John, to see if there's anything else.
I am too, and I don't see anything. It's yeah, I don't see anything.
I'm seeing a lot of emotional political style posts out there. I'm seeing some technical stuff on the GBU 57s. I'm also seeing, by the way, and I noticed somebody posted a comment 10-15 minutes ago. We posted an update on our Substack, survivaldispatchnews.com. We have a thread going there where we're putting the stuff at the top that's most recent, that the NYPD has ramped up surveillance of known Iranian sympathizers, for lack of a better term. So Jeff MD has described this a couple times this week. We have sleeper cells here that we don't have intel on, and we have others that we have intel on, but they haven't done anything that would allow us to arrest them. And that category is now under pretty intense scrutiny by law enforcement across the country. So we know for a fact that NYPD already announced that. Once somebody posted something in the comment section, but I'm also seeing a release that says that all of our domestic surveillance and intel agencies have ramped up their surveillance on these Iranian sympathizers. I don't know if I can call them terror cells or not just yet, but let me give you a little bit of perspective. Don Mann, who was a Navy SEAL for 20 years, and then he was CIA for 23 years and is a close personal friend of ours. We had intel, hard intel in the 1990s that Hezbollah had over 300 sleeper cells in America. Sleeper cells, not individuals, sleeper cells. Some of those cells might have had a handful of members. Some had more than
3 to 5, and some may have had 15 or 20.
Correct. So the latest numbers that we've been given are from people who have previously liaised with the JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, but are now retired. So the numbers aren't current as of today. The most current that I've been briefed on are approximately 2 years old, and they're saying 30,000, not 300, 30,000. Now, I can't swear that that's an actual number or not, but here's what I can say. And I mentioned this last night, John, on SDM when we had Patrick Byrne on, is that JJ Carroll loves to put it this way. Okay, so Donald Trump has been quoting 21 million illegals, or, you know, people came across the border during the illegitimate Biden admin, okay? And I've heard other people say that the number's more like 40, 50 million. But let's just say it's 21 million, that's the real number, okay? And you take 1% of the 21 million, that's 210,000. Like the numbers are astonishing, right?
And that's the argument of, you know, everybody always, I overheard a talk, or it was a debate between two guys that I follow on X. They did a debate a couple of nights ago, and the guy brought up a really important point. You know, there's how many in Islam? A couple billion? Okay, so if 10% are radicalized, that's 200 million people, by the way. That's bigger than any army on the face of the earth. And they're interspersed within our country. Like, we have opened up the floodgates for this, guys. And so, you know, we may reap the whirlwind on this, and it may get ugly. And the reality is this has always been something that they have been planning. And this is not about George Bush invading Iraq or any of this kind of stuff. Because if you think that, you are not a very good student of history, and you haven't read the history that was 1,600 years before that, where they raped and pillaged and overthrew multiple Christian nations. The Byzantine Empire tried to get into France. The Crusades stopped them. And of course, we always hear how evil the Crusades were in our textbooks in the schools. But the reality is, it was a defensive war to take back land that Islam had stolen. Okay. And when we escaped to America from Europe, we didn't have this problem. Well, guess what, guys? We've let that in. And this is not me. I am so focused on this because I believe that Islam is a demonic construct. It is not really a religion. It is it's essentially like communism to me. It's a demonic construct. It's antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ, which we believe here on Survival Dispatch. I'm really tired of people making excuses for terrorist nations. That's the thing that's pissing me off the most, is all these people that are, you know, Israel may have an evil government. Sure, whatever. That's fine. But I will tell you this. Islam wants to destroy us and enslave us and get rid of our ideology and our religion and the truth. So I'm just saying, we probably should focus on that and stop trying to make excuses for those people who have centuries of history of them doing this. Rant over.
Fair enough. I want to point out that this post is from General Michael Flynn, and the video that I referenced a few minutes ago, he's showing it as well. So I've counted about a half a dozen what I would consider reliable sources. Just be aware, again, there's another video that looks similar to this that was Syria 6 months ago, not tonight, but it's looking more and more like the one in the bottom right-hand corner that General Flynn put in this post is the actual footage of the four-door location, which was supposed to be the most sophisticated, best protected area that the Iranians had for enriching uranium. And just for those people who weren't with us right at the beginning, the Iranian government is saying that they didn't have any enriched uranium at any of the locations that we hit tonight because they suspected we were going to hit them. So they moved them to other locations. And I'm not buying that, John, because our surveillance is so sophisticated that we would have been able to track this stuff quite easily if they had been moving it. And there's no intel that at least has been shared with us to that effect. So I think Iran is blustering on that. What I don't think they're blustering on is they're going to try and attack our bases. They're going to try and attack ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, and they're going to activate sleeper cells here in America. We've been this for years now, trying to warn people. And people, I'll give you a funny example, John. Mike Sterling and I, years ago, we did a special on the threat that drones face to us. Okay. And at the time we said that there is good intel out there, open source and closed source, that indicates that Al Qaeda, ISIS, and other terrorist groups want to use drones to deliver aerosolized fentanyl. And by the way, there's a major update in this that I want to share with everybody in 2 seconds. And I'm going to even write it down so that I don't forget this to mention it. So let's go back to the Moscow theater hostage situation. I believe it was in 2006. So Chechen rebels took this theater, this Moscow theater, had over 900 hostages. And the way the FSB works is not like our law enforcement. If they lose 50% of the hostages, they're okay with those kinds of numbers, whereas our law enforcement would get roasted if something like that ever happened. So what they did to resolve that situation was they pumped aerosolized carfentanil and remifentanil through the HVAC systems. There are 1,400 analogs of fentanyl. We have signatures on approximately 200 of them. The base analog of fentanyl, when you jump up to remifentanil and carfentanil, they're 50 times more powerful. So what the FSB did is they pumped aerosolized remifentanil and carfentanil into the theater. They did not tell any first responders, and hundreds of people died. Now they managed to kill off the terrorists and resolve the situation, but at a very, very heavy cost. Now, if they had told the first responders what they were fixing to pump through the HVAC systems, they could have had Narcan available to counteract the effects of fentanyl. So if you go to nextdistro.org, nextdistro.org, pick your state, you can have your state Department of Health actually will send you free Narcan. And I highly recommend you do it through nextdistro.org because it's specifically not for drug users who need it to rescue themselves. I made the mistake of having a friend who's a doctor write me a script years ago so I could have it on hand so I could discuss it with people on Survival Dispatch News and other things that we, news stuff that we do. Now it's on my medical history, and life insurance companies think I'm a drug addict because I had this Narcan, which is a huge pain in the butt from a life insurance perspective. But here's where I'm going with this as well. So Mike Sterling and I, we warned everybody. We said, hey, look, 2019, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is Hezbollah, is essentially a branch of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard for all intents and purposes. There's two Hezbollahs. There's Hezbollah in the Middle East, which is funded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And then there's Hezbollah Unit 910, which is the rest of the world. It's not one unit, because somebody said to us in a previous episode, you guys are idiots if you think that Unit 910, there's one unit and they pose a risk. Come on. Unit 910 describes Hezbollah outside of the Middle East. Globally, they are self-funded, whereas Hezbollah in the Middle East is funded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They used a piece of software from Hollywood called Drone Swarm in 2019, where one operator at the time could control up to 5,000 drones simultaneously. Now the number is 15,000 simultaneously. They flew 20 FPV drones into Saudi Arabia, attacked their primary oil production facility, and knocked out 5% of the world's oil production inside of 20 minutes with 20 drones controlled by one operator using drone swarm technology. So we put a warning out there that it was entirely possible, because there's been chatter from terrorists that they would use FPV drones, hit open air venues, football stadiums, and concerts with aerosolized fentanyl, kill thousands of people. That doesn't include the people who would get trampled in the process and cause mass chaos and fear amongst America. So a bunch of naysayers said that we were spreading FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But 48 hours later, somebody flew an FPV drone into the Cleveland Browns football stadium on a Thursday night, and everybody stood like this, John, and looked up, and nobody reacted to it. It made it so obvious how easy it would be to be attacked like this, right? It's like shooting fish in a barrel. So we still had people making fun of Mike and I saying that we were spreading FUD. And lo and behold, the following Monday, SAM.gov, supplyandmanagement.gov, where all federal contracts are awarded and managed, put out an RFP, a request for proposal, for electromagnetic rifles to take down drones. And so an electromagnetic pulse will fry the circuit board, but it doesn't blow it up like a kinetic weapon. And then the drone would come down. And the reason they want to use an EMP pulse from a weapon to do that is hopefully they could then recover some intelligence from them.
Yep.
But long story short, there's been one thing after another that's vindicated us. Look at the recent Tu-65 bombers, billions of dollars worth of warplanes in Russia taken out by drones supposedly launched by the Ukrainians. I would bet everything I have that it was us and not the Ukrainians. They do not have that level of technology or sophistication. Either way, the drone threat and the fentanyl threat is huge, and the fentanyl threat just got a whole lot more serious, John. 70% of the fentanyl that has been seized, taken off of the streets since January 1st, 70% of the fentanyl taken off the streets since January 1st is laced with xylazine. And guess what? Xylazine is 100% immune to Narcan, and it makes the fentanyl immune to Narcan. So it's fentanyl laced with xylazine. A person takes it, they overdose, they die. It doesn't matter if you give them Narcan or not. 70%. It's a huge freaking number. The next part that I'll just share quickly before we get back on point with this, there's two ways of making fentanyl. So there's a laboratory means of doing it, and then there's a very rudimentary way of doing it. China sends the precursors to Mexico. Hezbollah and the cartels have these rudimentary labs where they cook it up. And the problem is it's hard to be exact, which is why we see between 100 and 200,000 Americans per year killed by the fentanyl scourge. However, we've now caught fentanyl coming in from the Canadian side, and it is made in Chinese laboratories in Canada that is, call it pharmaceutical grade for lack of a better term, that is an order of magnitude more potent. So this whole fentanyl thing is fixing to kick up to a whole new level with the xylazine being mixed in with it, with lab produced versus the rudimentary way of doing it south of the border. We are at risk of a major attack on America. And let me just say this, just to paint a picture for everybody. Go watch Sarah Adams and other people if you trust them. They will tell you that the intel has been out there for 2 decades now that AQ, ISIS, Taliban, all of these bad guys, Hezbollah, Hamas, want to do what are called swarm attacks. They want to attack multiple locations simultaneously down at the county level, but all the way up to the state and the national level. And when it's war gamed out, by day 2, nobody's sending their kids to school. By day 3, nobody's even going to work, which means the supply chain completely breaks down. There's 3 days worth of food on your grocery shelves at any particular point in time. Look at what people will do for a TV on Black Friday. Now imagine what they'll do if they have no food and you have food.
Yep.
They will quite literally kill you for that food. And our system is far more fragile than people are aware of. And again, so just imagine swarm attacks across the country, and 3 days in, it's a complete and utter disaster. Look at Baghdad, right? When Baghdad fell, the first 48 hours were marked by everybody and their dog looting. By hour 72, the marauders were stealing all of the stuff from the people who looted it in the first 48 hours. We had 300,000 troops on the ground, and it took us 4 weeks to restore order. Not completely, but some semblance of order. What happens to the 330 million Americans, John? And this, I'll end the doom and gloom stuff on this. After 3 days, when this is war gamed out, and the entire country is aware of what's been happening with these swarm attacks and people killing each other over things like food, we're never more than 3 missed meals away from anarchy. That's when they flick the switch on our power grids. We have 3 grids, East, West, and Texas. They occasionally connect to shunt power from one grid to another where it's needed. Texas to California, for example, during the summertime is not an unusual event to happen. There are 55,000 substations that power all 3 grids. Out of the 55,000 substations, there are 9 of them that are choke points. If you take those 9 substations out, no power to 95% of Americans. The 5% who still have power because they're in close proximity to the power plants and they're not feeding off of these substations. Okay. And then the next piece is that they take out the power grid, they take out the data networks after 3 days. You're now back in the 1800s. And part of the process of taking out the transformers, by the way, which are a 48-month lead time right now, we don't make them. We don't have any in stock. They come from Southeast Asia and Germany. So not only are we bombed back to the 1800s in that case, they will override safety systems and send upwards of 700 kV down 200 kV lines. Most of our lines, our transmission lines, are 200 kV. If you were able to override the systems, we know that the Chinese, the Iranians, and the Koreans have compromised our power grid systems. You send 700 kV down a 200 kV line, and everything is destroyed. It would take
violently destroyed, actually,
and it would take decades to restore country. So I'm not trying to spread fear. Our job, again, at Survival Dispatch is we dispatch information to our fellow Americans and friends of America so you can survive in very uncertain times, in a nutshell. And everybody needs to get prepared. If you haven't done so already, start stacking up your preps, get situational training, put down the weapons of mass distraction when you're in public. Put a plan together with your family. You should have 2 plans. Go to survivaldispatch.com, and up top in the menus, we have a free home defense plan. And you pull it down. It's a 12-page PDF, and you can put together your own home defense plan. Because if you have food and people smell you cooking food and this type of scenario unfolds, you will have a big bullseye on your back. And also, if you're in public, you need to have a plan. We use the word avalanche. Somebody says avalanche in our party, we are getting up and leaving with no explanation whatsoever. I'm personally going to draw as much attention as I can while my family gets out safely, but train, then train some more, then train some more. John, I'm going to let you pick it up there. I'm assuming you may have found some updates, and I'm going to go on the hunt now. It's my turn.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up with something Keith Graves just posted about 51 minutes ago. We need to start operating like the threat is already here, because it likely is. We don't know who crossed into the country over the past 4 years, and we can't afford to assume they came with good intentions. Stay alert, take responsibility for your own security, and keep your head on a swivel. Here's the reality. You guys, many of you know that my partner with Righteous Savages is a police officer, 25-year SWAT cop, 29-year police officer, has been involved in training and high-risk warrant delivery and all kinds of things. And what any police officer will tell you that has seen crimes after the fact is that most of the time, police officers see crimes after the fact. They are a cleanup crew for the most part, which means that those vital, important seconds where your life is teetering on a knife's edge, you are solely responsible for your own security. You are solely responsible for your own defense. And more and more people need to start acting that way. It doesn't pay to watch YouTube videos about survival and gun training and all that stuff if you're not going to go out and actually apply the things you learn.
That's breaking news, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is 1 minute. This was posted 1 minute ago. CNN is now reporting that 6 B-2A Spirit long-range stealth bombers with the U.S. Air Force dropped a total of 12, not 6 GBU-57A B, MOPS, massive ordnance penetrator, 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs on the Fordow nuclear facility in central Iran. In addition, U.S. Navy submarines fired 30 BGM-109 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles at 2 other sites, Natanz and Isfahan, and a B-2 dropped 2 more GBU-57 bunker busters on Natanz. So just get your head wrapped around this. 12 GBU-57s on the primary target, which was the Fordow facility, which was believed to have the largest stockpile of enriched uranium and potentially already a thermonuclear warhead there. So that's breaking news. It literally happened a minute before I started speaking. That's a pretty big change as far as the scale of what we dropped on them. John, like, speak to that. Like 12 GBU-57s. What's the math on that?
Well, essentially, if they dropped 12, like, you potentially could go what, 2,400 feet into the ground. I would say that generally what they were doing is they were pattern dropping them to make a bigger hole.
396,000 pounds. 396,000 pounds on.
And also, the TLAM Tomahawk is the land attack version. It's the 109A is the land attack version. We have multiple versions of Tomahawks, and this is not the Tomahawk missiles that were fired in the first Gulf War that everybody was blown away by. These are upgraded, brand new, highest level of technology. Tomahawk missiles have been in our arsenal for a long time. They're an extremely effective weapon. What they will do with these now is they will actually fire, and it looks like 30 of them, and I guarantee you they all came down at the same time. So that's how they do. They loiter. So they'll fire them, and actually this is this is Top Gun Maverick, as funny as this is. Like, if you've seen the movie, the ships fire a bunch of Tomahawk missiles that take out the airfields, and then the planes fly in and literally just dig a hole with their bombs to blow up the underground nuclear enrichment plant. So this is essentially Top Gun Maverick, which is kind of funny in a really weird way. But so I would say that the Tomahawk missiles was to take out any kind of defensive things around. Maybe there was an airfield close. I have no idea. But essentially, this was a very large and a lot of tonnage of ordnance.
Yeah, the Tomahawks hit the other 2 locations.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just read that. So yeah. So I'm assuming these are basically not underground facilities, or not as underground facilities, and they saved those 12. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misspoke, but they saved those 12 GBU-57As for the deep ground targets. So
56 seconds ago it was confirmed that Israeli airspace and all airports were closed a couple hours ago and are closed until further notice. So
they're anticipating terrorist attacks is what they're doing, I would say.
Probably, and that now you just open another rabbit hole. But we've got, amongst all the different platforms right now, it looks like we've got about 5,000 people watching. So I want to share something, that there has never been a commercial airliner taken by terrorists in the history of Israel's commercial airliners, commercial air. Golly, I'm tired and I'm losing my thought.
I hear you.
Air industry is the right word. Sorry, apologize. And the reason that is because, and they don't have a TSA that does security theater, by the way. So when you pull into an airport in Israel, they ask everybody in the vehicle, regardless of what the vehicle is, could be a bus, what's your name and where are you going? And those 2 questions trip up a lot of people who have nefarious purposes. Then when you go into the airports, you have to check in at the desk to get your boarding pass, whether you're checking a bag or not. And the people who are working those desks are trained professionals, watching your body language, asking you questions. Then on top of that, you have plain clothes law enforcement all over the place, profiling like a mother. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. I mean, whoever came up with this idea that they're going to harass my 80-year-old mother over what kind of shoes she's wearing is just ridiculous. We know what a terrorist looks like, and I don't care if that's not politically correct or not. And I will give credit to the Israelis in this. They know what a terrorist looks like too.
Absolutely.
And they will hone in on it. So just get your head wrapped around that. Not once has there ever been a hostage situation with a commercial airliner in the history of Israel.
Yep.
And they profile because they don't give a crap about being politically correct. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing woke, politically correct crap. I've been listening to it since it started in the 1980s, and it drives me nuts because these people who believe in this stuff, oh, well, they would never do that. Are the same people who say, well, you know, that those people, they really don't mean us any harm. When they say death to America, they don't really mean it. They're actually pretty nice people. And then they go on a hike across somewhere in the Middle East and they get raped and murdered.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. It's just like all of the people in Pride Month saying, you know, free Palestine. You realize what they would do to you? Like they're not they're not your friends. They're not your friend, and they aren't. The other thing is they are not live and let live. That's the big difference. You know, I may not agree with your lifestyle. I may not agree with your ideology, but I'm live and let live as long as you're going to not pose a threat to me and my way of life. Yeah, I live and let live. That's kind of, you know, we always say we're, you know, small L libertarians here. We're not the crazy people that have, you know, weird, like the Libertarian Party has fumbled the football so many times over the years, and it's just run by idiots. But in any case, we're not those kind of people. And, you know, as long as you're not messing with, you know, my Western civilization lifestyle and my religion and my beliefs, yeah, fine, do whatever you want.
So,
but
John, speak to this. President Trump said that the Iranians have killed over 1,000 of our servicemen, and essentially indicated that they're going to pay for that, right? And now there's people all over social media saying that he's full of shit, and that's not the case. Well, here's your approximate totals of troops that we know that were killed, that the Iranians were behind it. 603 in Iraq, 241 in Beirut, 19 in Khobar Towers, 6+ in recent attacks, and 100 to 300 in Afghanistan, which is a broader estimate. That puts the total in the range of 969 to over 1,169. Donald Trump doesn't throw numbers out there unless he can back them up, you know.
Yep.
Full stop. So sorry to interrupt. I'm just trying
to. No, you're totally fine. I'm gonna actually read this because this is Tim Kennedy posted this about 8 hours ago. I want to remind the world that the current president of the United States has 88 felony charges brought against him, thousands of lawsuits, and was literally shot during the last election. This guy don't give an F. He is an example of FAFO.
So speaking of FAFO, I'm drawing a blank here. Somebody in the audience help me out. What was this character's name back in the day on In Living Color? I can't remember his name, but he was absolutely hilarious. This might be a little bit before your time, John, but this actor used to play basically this retarded kid on In Living Color, and somebody's put this together, spunky conservative patriot of thank you, President Trump. Hey, Iran, FAFO. I wish I could remember what that guy's name is. I wonder if there's any volume to this, actually. Stuart. There you go. Stuart, look what I can do. Sorry.
That's so funny.
Well, you know, while we're laughing about stuff, I'm going to continue on the hunt for more serious stuff, but there's Jose Padilla. For anybody who's been tracking this, clearly J.D. Vance is, Red Rum here, you know, The Shining. But I digress. I apologize. Yep. You got to throw some levity in there occasionally.
You know, the one thing that I do love is all these memes are going around of, like, you know, Trump wants peace, all this stuff. Only an idiot would say that this strike wasn't to gain a path to actually being able to negotiate. Like, this is the thing. You have to show your enemies that it's just like your kids. I'm a father. I have 3 young kids at home. If I don't show my kids that I am willing to go there from time to time, they're not going to respect my authority, my power, and my will to actually discipline them. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you got somebody that's out of order and you can do something about it, honestly, that's straight up in James in the Bible. If good men, I'm paraphrasing here, but if good men know what's right and they don't do anything about it, then guess what? It's wrong. And we end up with this. We want to actually argue all of this. Well, not us, but these people online want to argue all of this stuff that you know how we got to peace with the Germans in 1940? We had to kill a lot of people, guys.
That's
full stop. That's that's how peace comes. Peace does not come through sitting around a fire singing Kumbaya and eating s'mores. It a lot of times comes at the end of a knife or a bullet out of a gun. And that's the reality, and that is history. And history is violent, and history is ugly, and history is muddled. It doesn't mean that I want to go to war. I'm not some bloodthirsty warmonger at all. But I also understand that there's a nuance to this, that if bad people are not stopped, they just get worse. Me and my wife actually watched a movie, and it was actually pretty entertaining last night. It's a Netflix movie with Gerard Butler. It's called Plane. And it's based off of this pilot's flying a plane out of Singapore, I think it is, and they end up running into a storm and having to ditch the plane. And I won't give away spoilers on it, but essentially they land on an island in the Philippines. And me being the nerdy person that I am, as we're watching this movie, I'm like, this seems a little crazy, but I'm going to look this up. So apparently the Philippines has these islands that are they don't have any kind of government. They're completely run by Islamic jihadists that are tied to Al-Qaeda. This is a real thing. The movie was actually based on a real thing. And the military just leaves them to do whatever. Human traffic. If anybody ends up on the island, they're slaves. It's a real thing. Up until 2 years ago, they were completely in power in these islands, some of the 7,900 islands that are in the Philippines. And like, they're just left to be. Well, do they get better? No, they actually still do horrible things. And bad guys are always going to do horrible things until they are stopped. And it takes a stronger person to stop them. That's not warmongering. That's being decisive. What we did in Iraq and Afghanistan in the early 2000s was not decisive. It was muddled. It was gross. It was wrong in the long run, because you know what we did? We stayed there for 20 years and we spent a lot of blood and treasure of this country. And when we walked out of there, what happened? The crazy bad people took over again. I'm not calling for that. I am not calling for that. What I am calling for, though, is when you can do something that's going to keep the bad guy from getting worse, you kind of have to do it, especially if you can.
Agreed. Let's hear what Wolf Blitzer, can't say I have a whole lot of respect for him, but let's hear what he's got to say. This was just posted a couple minutes ago. And then also it's been announced that the B-2A Spirit long-range stealth bombers that struck Iran tonight or early this morning, I guess it's Sunday over there, flew nonstop for approximately 37 hours from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, refueling several times midair, a U.S. official told the New York Times. But let's hear what Wolf Blitzer has to say.
Here's the latest developments on this major breaking news that we're following. Breaking news in Iran. American bombers have struck 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 nuclear sites, major nuclear sites inside Iran. Those sites, Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. They're considered the heart of Iran's nuclear ambitions. Israel had tried to target them in the past, but a U.S. official tells CNN that the U.S. used not 1, not 2, but 6 B-2 bombers and 12 bunker buster bombs. And that was just at the Fordo site. Sources tell CNN that the U.S. told Iran through back-channel discussions that the strikes would be contained, and no further strikes were planned, at least not yet.
So there's update there. Here's the post that I just read with regards to the planes flying nonstop from Missouri to Iran. I mean, we can literally hit anywhere in the world.
I would be interested to know what unit that air refueler was, because I once supported the B-2s with the unit that I was attached to. The second unit I was attached to. Yeah. We did a lot of flying early in the war in 2003. My unit ended up in a place called Lodges right off the coast of Spain, and that's exactly what we were doing. We were refueling B-2s as they flew over to do bombing runs in Iraq. So know those views very well from the back of a boom pod of a KC-135. So
I'm scanning for anything else, and I'm not catching anything else that's immediate. I don't know if has anybody posted anything in the chat that we need to be aware of, John?
I've been trying to pull things.
Yeah, why would anybody want to hear what Wolf Blitzer has to say? Agreed. That was just CNN were the first ones to break the news that it was 6 B-2 bombers and 12 GBU-57s.
So I want to Northwind, and this is not, I'm not trying to be derogatory at all. I completely understand this point of view. Here's what I will say. The previous administration allowed the terrorists that are now probably going to try and attempt these attacks inside of our country come in. That's not the fault of the current administration. The other thing I would say is the bad thing about terrorism is you only know the attacks that actually succeed. The ones that are typically thwarted, you never hear in the news. And that's the bad thing, because I don't know if you guys know this. This is kind of off subject, but it just goes to show you how little this stuff is reported. Chris, I'll ask you this. How many of the top 10 FBI most wanted criminals do you think that the entirety of the Obama administration caught?
Goose egg.
100%. It took 2 months for Kash Patel to catch all 10 of them. 2 months.
Again, I'm shocked.
I mean, so that's the level of, and did any of you guys hear about that in the news? No, that should have been headline news. Wow. So we don't know what's going on the inside. We don't know intel. We can speculate, and there is tons of people online speculating right now. What I'm saying is I'm going to stick with the guy that literally took a bullet, that I know cares about this country more than he cares about Israel or Iran or any other country. And I think he's proven that. And I think this was thought through in a lot of ways. Donald Trump is, he is a guy I think we can trust because he cares about this country. Now, the instant that I feel like that's not the case and we're putting other people's interest in front of ours, then yes, I'll call that out. I'm not here to be a Donald Trump apologist. There's only one king, and that's Jesus Christ. But I do think that in situations like this, and this is another thing I'll bring up, and I know I told you this, Chris, in our text chat a couple of days ago, there are specific characteristics of leaders that you want in specific periods of time. What you want in a situation like this, you don't want an idealist. Somebody that is an idealist is going to make decisions based off of that. And if they have a preconceived notion about something, they're not going to listen to reason. They're not going to read tea leaves, and they're not going to react and change course as soon as they see that this thing's not working. You want a pragmatist, somebody who is doing it for the best interest of the people that he is representing. There is nobody that I have ever seen in my lifetime that is more of a pragmatist and more of a transactional person than Donald J. Trump. And that's exactly what you need in this kind of a situation. He's going to do, and the instant he sees that this is not going well, he's not George W. Bush, guys. And I've seen the memes of them changing his face to George W. Bush. He's not George W. Bush. He hated those guys because of what they did to this country. So let's cool our jets and see what happens over the next few days and weeks.
I'm still scanning for whatever I can find, John. There's not a whole lot of new news here. I think we're probably going to wrap up in the next few minutes or so.
Yep.
Unless something else comes to light. I think we've pretty much covered everything. There's some news coming out from the AP saying that Iran is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz. We already knew that was potentially happening. I don't know if you caught this or not, but there's claims that Chinese planes that flew into Iran in the middle of the night a few nights ago, that they brought in GPS jammers and picked up some Chinese nationalists and took them back, exfilled them back to China. There's been multiple reports since then, so just over the past few days, that GPS signals have been blocked to a certain extent at the Strait of Hormuz. If memory serves me right, I think it's at its tightest point, I think it's 21 miles across, which is still a decent size, but definitely a lot easier to shut down than potentially, somewhere that's not a strait, I guess you could say. But again, I'm not seeing any breaking stuff at all other than what we've already covered. We know that at 8 a.m. Eastern that Pete Hegseth will be speaking at the Pentagon. And we'll be covering that information tomorrow morning as well. Don't forget to go to survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for a free account. In addition to getting our weekly watch guide, we publish a lot of content on Survival Dispatch. You will also, even if you're not a paying member, when something really serious goes down, like tonight, you will get a free notification from our SDEN system, which is the Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. Typically, it's for paying members only. But if there's something that potentially impacts our entire country, we're going to share that regardless of whether people pay or not. But other than that, I don't really have anything else.
I'd like to do something I do usually on my live streams, and before we go, I'd like to pray us out. I think it's warranted tonight for sure, because this is not me. Anything I've said has not been that without the seriousness of knowing and understanding the situation. This is a serious situation, and we need to address it that way. So if you're cool with it, Chris, I'd like to pray us out.
Yeah. So we had the studio set up for your show tomorrow with the closing video from the Dilly Meme team on JD Vance calling Padilla Jose and all the crap that happened with that. And I don't think that's appropriate to play tonight. So if you just give me a second here.
Yep.
I'm going to try and find something else that we've got in our library already uploaded so that we can close out. We've got one. It's good. It's on the flag. So let me get that in place and then take it away. So let me just cue this up here. All right, we're queued up. Let her up.
Okay. Heavenly Father, I first of all would like to thank you for your grace and your wisdom that you have given us, and in this very somber, sobering moment in the history of the world, really. We want to ask that you give our leaders, give our president Donald Trump wisdom. Help him to listen to the voices he needs to listen to and ignore the ones that he doesn't need to listen to. I pray for wisdom and direction for our Secretary of Defense and for all of the members of the cabinet that will most likely be up all night tonight trying to figure out the next move. I pray that you continue to strengthen them and give them the utmost wisdom for the betterment of this country and this nation, Lord. I pray for everybody in this country as we are now in heightened levels of alert, heightened levels of threat, and we could very well see retaliatory strikes within our borders. Lord, I pray that you thwart those, that you give our police officers, our intelligence members, our even our local citizens, the ability to spot these things, report them, and stop them, even if it takes force. Lord, I pray that you give us that discernment and that ability to see what is going on behind all of the chaos that is our daily lives. Lord, I pray that you bring us back safe and you keep us safe, and to your glory, and to you be the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And we will be back tomorrow. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
Yep.
There's a feeling, comes a stealing, sets my brain reeling. Red, white, and blue, I am for you, honest, honest. Don't believe in raving when I see it waving. Archer runs up my back, makes me glad I am what I am, and we'll fight for freedom. You're a grand old flag, high flying. All the land I love, forever in peace may you wave. You're a grand old flag, high flying.